He called himself Ragnar Lothbrok online, a joke at first, just a playful nod to the legendary Viking hero. But little did he know this name would become his digital identity, a persona that would captivate thousands, a 20-something with a webcam and a dream. He played games mostly. His setup was modest, just a basic computer and a simple webcam. But his passion for gaming was anything but modest. He spent hours honing his skills, immersing himself in virtual worlds. His channel, Viking in Training, gained a modest following. People liked his humor, his energy, his ability to make even the most mundane game moments entertaining. Slowly but surely, his subscriber count began to grow. He wasn't just playing games, he was building a community. Then God of War came out. Ragnar was captivated. The game's stunning visuals, its gripping storyline, and its deep dive into Norse mythology struck a chord with him. It was as if the game was made for him. The brutal combat, the mythology, it resonated. He found himself spending hours not just playing the game, but also researching Viking lore. He watched documentaries, read books, and immersed himself in the world of the Norsemen. He started incorporating Viking themes into his videos. Viewers ate it up, his channel blew up, donations poured in. His audience loved the authenticity, the passion he brought to his content. He wasn't just a gamer anymore, he was a storyteller, a modern-day skald. He bought axes, furs, even a drinking horn. Life imitated art. The line blurred, his room transformed into a Viking longhouse, filled with relics of a bygone era. He wasn't just playing a character, he was living it, and his viewers, they couldn't get enough. They were on this journey with him, from a simple gamer to the digital Viking. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. Time seemed to lose its meaning as Ragnar's obsession grew. The passage of time was marked not by the calendar, but by his deepening immersion into the Viking world. Ragnar lived and breathed Vikings. Every waking moment was dedicated to learning, understanding, and embodying the Norse way of life. He devoured books on Viking history, mythology, and culture, each page pulling him deeper into a world long past. He spoke in broken Norse phrases online, trying to revive a language that had been silent for centuries. His apartment transformed into a shrine to the Viking age. Animal skins replaced posters, and every corner of his home echoed with the spirit of the Norseman. He practiced axe throwing in the park, freaking out joggers who were unprepared for such a sight. The park became his training ground, a place where he could hone his skills and feel the thrill of the hunt, even if it was just a wooden target. He neglected his job, his friends. His world shrunk to the size of his computer screen and the Viking artifacts that surrounded him. Phone calls went unanswered, emails were ignored, and his once bustling social life faded into the background. It was him and his viewers. His digital shield wall, the online community became his new tribe, a group of like-minded individuals who shared his passion and fueled his obsession. They were his comrades in arms, his brothers and sisters in the digital age. He'd rant for hours about ancient battles, gods, monsters. His knowledge was vast and his passion was infectious. He became a storyteller, a modern-day skald, weaving tales of heroism and adventure that captivated his audience. His eyes, once filled with humor, now burned with a strange intensity. His subscribers loved it. They saw him as authentic, dedicated, a true Viking in a modern world. His transformation was complete, and they were there to witness it. They called him authentic, dedicated. They praised his commitment and passion, leaving comments that fueled his desire to go even further. Each thumbs up, each positive comment was a validation of his new identity. They didn't see the darkness creeping in. The obsession that had once been a source of joy and fulfillment was now consuming him. The line between reality and fantasy began to blur, and the shadows of his mind grew darker. Didn't see the line being crossed. The boundaries that once separated his real life from his Viking persona were dissolving. He was no longer just playing a role, he was becoming someone else, someone who lived by a different code. He wasn't just playing a role anymore, he believed it. The transformation was complete. Ragnar had become the Viking he had always dreamed of being, but at what cost? The man he once was had been left behind, replaced by a warrior from a bygone era. The first sign was the dog. It was a quiet night, the kind where every sound seems amplified. The dog, usually calm, was barking incessantly, its eyes wide with fear. Something was unsettling it, something unseen. A neighbor complained about the noise. They had never heard the dog so agitated before. The barking echoed through the neighborhood, a distress signal that no one could ignore. Barking, then silence. The abrupt end to the noise was almost more alarming than the barking itself. It was as if the dog had been silenced by an unseen force. Then Ragnar uploaded a video. It was late and most people were asleep, but those who were awake saw it immediately. The title was cryptic, but intriguing enough to click. Him in full Viking garb holding a blood-soaked axe. The image was shocking, almost surreal. It looked like a scene from a horror movie, but it was all too real. Odin demands sacrifice, he rasped, eyes wild. His voice was low and menacing, sending chills down the spines of those watching. His eyes, filled with a manic intensity, seemed to bore into the viewers' souls. People thought it was fake, a sick joke. They laughed nervously, unsure whether to be amused or horrified. The comments section exploded with reactions, ranging from disbelief to outrage. Until the news reported a missing husky, the connection was made almost immediately. The dog in the video, the one that had been barking so frantically, was now missing. The laughter stopped, and the police came knocking. Ragnar laughed. He seemed unfazed by their presence, almost amused. His laughter echoed through the house, a chilling sound that made the officers uneasy. He showed them his subscriber count. It had skyrocketed overnight. The video had gone viral, and Ragnar was reveling in his newfound fame. "My army will protect me," he boasted. They left, bewildered. Empowered, Ragnar smiled. He knew he had tapped into something powerful, something that gave him a sense of invincibility. The world was his game now. He saw himself as a modern-day Viking, ready to conquer and claim what he believed was his. The map was his battlefield, and he was ready to make his move, and he was ready to play. The transformation was complete. Ragnar was no longer just a man, he was a force to be reckoned with, a player in a game that only he understood. The bar was loud, crowded. A man bumped into Ragnar, spilling his mead. "Watch it, asshole!" The man slurred. Ragnar's eyes narrowed. He saw red, not the mead. Something primal surged within him. He grabbed the man, dragged him outside. The alley was dark, silent except for their ragged breaths. And then a scream, a sickening thud. Ragnar stood over the body, axe glinting in the moonlight. He felt exhilarated, alive. The killings escalated. Brutal, ritualistic. Each one streamed live on his channel. His subscribers, initially horrified, became desensitized. They were captivated. He was living their darkest fantasies. They egged him on, sent him names, addresses, people they deemed unworthy. Ragnar, fueled by their adoration and his own twisted sense of justice, became an avatar of death. He was judge, jury, and executioner. Then the demands changed. They weren't enough anymore. He needed to prove his loyalty to them, his true followers. The first name sent was Sarah, a young woman, a frequent donator. She'd sent him her address once, jokingly asking for a Viking raid. He chuckled, remembering. He opened a live stream. "Tonight," he growled, hefting his axe, "Valhalla welcomes a queen." He traveled across states, leaving a trail of blood, each victim a subscriber, each murder a sacrifice to his digital godhood. The police were baffled. No connection between the victims except their online activity. The press had a field day. The Viking in training murders. It was a media frenzy, and Ragnar loved it. His face, twisted in a rictus of madness, was plastered everywhere. He was infamous. He was a god. The serpent's fang striking the heart of trust, his final stream. He was in his apartment, surrounded by police. They'd found him, finally. He held a knife to a girl's throat, his moderator, his most loyal follower. "One last sacrifice," he croaked, "for the glory of Valhalla." The viewers watched, horrified. This wasn't a game, this was real. Their hero, their god, was a monster. Unmasking the monster, the world takes notice. A sniper's bullet, a muffled thud. Ragnar slumped lifeless. The girl, in shock, scrambled away from his body. The world watched, holding its breath. And then the internet exploded. Denouncement, disgust, horror. Ragnar's subscribers, once his devout followers, now disavowed him. They hadn't known. They couldn't have known. Could they? Ragnarok, the final stand. The trial was a media circus. The surviving victims testified. Their families wept. The world saw the devastation left in Ragnar's wake. Experts debated the role of the internet, of video games, of online radicalization. No one had an answer. In the end, Ragnar Lothbrok, the man who wanted to be a god, was just another face on a mugshot. His legend, built on pixels and blood, crumbled to dust. Echoes of madness, the aftermath. The Viking in Training channel was taken down. His videos, once celebrated, were now evidence, a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the surface of the digital world. A world where lines blurred, where fantasy became reality, and where a young man with a webcam could transform into a monster. The question remained, how many more Ragnars were out there lurking in the shadows of the internet, waiting for their turn to play God?